Well, I'm late getting this video out, but there was a learning curve on this one. But I finally found out how to get some cute little animal shapes out of a dinner roll recipe that I have. At the very least, you'll get a good dinner roll recipe out of this video. They taste a lot like the ones that you get in a cafeteria. To make the dough, I first started my yeast. I mixed together a 1/4 cup of warm water, 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast, and a teaspoon of sugar. Just mix that together well, and I set it aside. Then in the pan of my bread machine, I mixed together 1 cup of warm milk, 1 egg that is at room temperature, and a 1/3 cup of vegetable oil. Then I added 3 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour, a 1/4 cup of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 1/2 cup of instant mashed potatoes. Once my yeast had proofed, I added that to the pan as well. Put the pan in the bread machine, set it on the dough cycle, and hit start. Here's a few shots of the bread machine in action. If you've never had one of these, it's hard to believe that one little paddle in the bottom would thoroughly mix all of these ingredients, knead the dough well enough, and then rise the dough. It does an excellent job of all of it. And at one point, I will scrape down the sides to make sure that all of the ingredients are incorporated. And I'll check to see that the dough is the proper consistency. If it's too wet, I'll add a little more flour. If it's too dry, I'll add a little more liquid. This dough ended up perfect. I didn't have to add anything to it. But what you want to see is the dough pulling away from the sides of the pan. When the dough cycle was complete, I removed the pan and I put the dough on a floured surface. I punched down the dough, then I let it rest for a few minutes. Then I rolled the dough into a log and cut it into pieces. For dinner rolls, I shaped them into balls, pulling the dough under itself until I have a smooth surface. I put the rolls on a greased baking sheet. I lightly cover it with some plastic wrap, and then I let it rise for about 30 to 45 minutes. For the ducks, I shaped the dough into some little teardrop shapes, and then I made some smaller size balls. I punched a hole in the center of the teardrop shape, added a little water to it, and then placed the ball on top of that. And you need to put it in the center of the teardrop shape, or else the head will, as it rises, the head will move towards the front of the body, and if it's too close, it'll completely fall off. The 2 ducks on the right-hand corner are the correct placement. The one on the left is incorrect, and the head fell off of that one. For the rabbits, I shaped the dough into a ball, and then I shaped another piece into a flattened oval, and I clipped it with a pair of kitchen shears to form 2 ears. I flattened this dough slightly, then I added a little water to the back, and I placed it on the round piece of dough. You want to keep the ears close together because as this rises, the ears will kind of separate. I also tried a few different other patterns, trying to make like a floppy-eared rabbit and all, and those didn't turn out well. This was one of the better ones. For the doves, I shaped some of the dough into a snake that was about 9 inches long. I tied it into a knot, leaving one end of the tail longer, placed it on the baking pan, and then I clipped into the long piece so that I would have 3 or 4 sections there, and then I flattened it slightly. Here's a look at what to do and what not to do. The rabbits in the front didn't turn out well. The bottom one there, the head was too small. The floppy ear design doesn't turn out well. The doves turned out well. The 3 rabbits there turned out well. The one in the middle is the better placement. Of the ducks on the back row, the one on the left's head fell off, and the other 2 turned out very nice. So that's a look at the best placement for these animal shapes. So then I covered the shapes lightly with plastic wrap, and I let them rise for 30 to 45 minutes. After the rolls had risen, I brushed them with an egg wash, which was just an egg mixed with a little water. I baked them at 375 for 10 minutes, and this is how they turn out. They are very soft, very light rolls. They are sweet, and they just melt in your mouth. This is one of my favorite roll recipes. For the animal shapes, after they had risen, I flattened the tails of the ducks a little more, and I tried to add a little detail with a bamboo skewer by putting indentations in the rabbit's ears. I gave them some eyes, and I added a few indentations to the dove's tails. And as you can see, the rabbits on the front already aren't looking very good. And the duck on the front, his head fell off. That head was too big. So try to keep the ducks looking like the two in the far back right. And like I said, the 3 rabbits on the back row there turned out okay, and the doves turned out okay. But the ones on the front are what you want to avoid. I brushed them with the egg wash, then baked them at 375 for 10 minutes, and here's how they turned out. As you can see, I had some casualties in the front row here. The floppy ear design didn't go over well, and the poor duck, his head just fell over. The doves turned out nice, and the 3 rabbits on the back ended up okay. The one in the middle was the best, and then the poor duck on the left lost his head, and the other 2 turned out looking nice. So here's how your rolls can turn out now that I've eliminated all the mistakes for you. I think they turned out right cute. Now I wish I could have gotten these out sooner in time for Easter dinner. I sincerely tried. This isn't the first attempt. For the beaks of the birds, I just cut a little slit into the roll and inserted a sunflower kernel. You could use slivered almonds or anything like that. So that's how I made the little animal shaped rolls. I hope it helps.